What's going on, everybody? We're going to be taking a look at the report put out by UiPath, which is a robotic process automation enterprise software that helps people automate pretty much anything. And just like every other software company, they're getting into the AI game. Of course, we're all probably sick of seeing these two bloody letters together, but this shit's not going away anytime soon. And they have put out a report, a 13-page report, probably written by an LLM, titled AI and Automation Trends 2025. Now, the question is, why should we listen to them? Well, these guys, the UiPath guys, their enterprise software right now is pretty close to bleeding edge when it comes to setting up agents and orchestrators and getting everything to work together. We've been able to make some pretty interesting projects with these software, and I think that they may end up becoming, if not a leader in enterprise software for this type of thing, then a leader in software in general for agentic process automation. And now there's a lot of them out there, N8N, there's all sorts of no-code builders that you can use and integrate LLMs and even your own models. And this company is interesting because they have put out this report here, basically saying what they think the trends are. Now, I actually haven't read the report. This is not scripted. I'm curious, is this just a bunch of baloney? Is this hype? Because this field is full of hype. You have people taking software and calling it agents. You've got companies piloting this stuff without really knowing what they're getting into. You got companies making boatloads of money doing implementation for projects that they don't even know are going to actually drive business outcomes. And me, I'm a marketer. My goal is helping small businesses get customers, right? That's my job. That's what I do. And personally, I'm looking for any edge possible. I don't care what the letters happen to be. And I want to know, is this really the wave of the future? Now, my gut says, I don't know. But we're going to find out. Welcome to UiPath's AI and Automation Trends 2025. Cool. Welcome to the report on the forces shaping AI and automation through 2025 and beyond. Our goal is to provide you with the information and future sight you need to understand the environment and take advantage of the opportunities arising in it. Well, okay, good luck, because right now it's just a swirling cloud of just fog of unknowns. We don't know where this is going. And this, of course, makes it scary, but it also makes it very, very interesting. These trends reflect our analysis of third-party research, melded with unique insights drawn from relationships with our 10,000 UiPath customers and millions of members of the global UiPath community. I am one of those customers, along with thousands of technology and go-to-market partners. We have also incorporated perspectives from UiPath AI scientists, product developers, software engineers, and automation strategists, as well as those of our sales, marketing, and customer support teams. Okay. It's always a challenge to distill what's happening out there into a short list of trends, but this year has proved even harder than usual. Yeah, because everything is bloody happening this year. Everything is happening, and so much is going right and so much is going wrong. The stories are endless. There's so many profound forces at work. Chief among them, the rapid emergence of agentic AI. I'm putting the quotes there. They didn't. They're using it at face value, which I would be very careful with. Agentic AI, which equips software agents with the intelligence to not only understand what actions need to be taken to reach a goal, but also to take those actions themselves. Okay, so they are really, they mean it. A great leap forward in AI science. Agentic AI has significant implications for enterprise automation and is interwoven into many of our trends. That's not to say that generative AI has fallen by the wayside. The reality is, the agentic automation would not have happened without these LLMs. It really was a great leap forward back in 2022 to have the first production-ready, consumer-ready LLM hit the market in such a big way with OpenAI's product. And because of what it's able to do, that is what has allowed us to believe, and us, I don't mean AI researchers. They've always, they've been working on it. I'm talking about those of us who don't work on this. It's allowed us to believe that having these automations do things intelligently based on, given a goal, given a prompt, do these things without any human involvement and have a good likelihood that the product would be good enough to put it into production and ultimately drive business value. We didn't believe that until a few years ago, and now, like, yeah, we really do believe it because we're starting to do it. It's true that many organizations are still struggling to define and scale their Gen AI initiatives. Well, it's just naked. I mean, there's only so much you can do with prompt text, right? But they're still capturing gains, both from the outside in AI built into enterprise software and new LLM-powered approaches to taming and gaining advantage from their internal data. Yeah, I think that second one is really key here. But as we go through this report, we're probably gonna see how these things get even more powerful. Finally, as AI's impact on our public and private lives expands and intensifies, enterprises and technology partners will need to stay on top of a slew of new legislation regulating everything from managing a virtual workforce to copyright ownership to the use of data and model training and beyond. Okay, who knows what's going to happen there? Okay, so 7 trends that they've pointed out that they want to overview and focus on. Okay, number 1, AI moves from thought to action as the age of agentic AI dawns. That is, agents gain the capacity to understand, plan, and act on their own. This changes everything. I'm gonna be honest, I think y'all are, I think you guys are a bit too, I get you make the software. I think you guys are a bit too bullish on this now. I think we're still very early, especially considering most of these agentic platforms are using LLMs to do the intelligent bits, right? To do the deciding what happens when stuff, and then using various agents that may or may not be powered by LLMs to perform automations on those things based on what that LLM has outputted. So knowing that, and knowing where we are now, and knowing the fact that if I ask, the best ChatGPT model anything, there's certainly not a guarantee that I'm going to get the right answer, or even an answer that's really worth anything. That, of course, still concerns me, and leads me to not be a doomer about it, but to be very cautious, especially when putting into production. Look, I work with startups, and things are a lot lower stakes there. So we actually have a lot of room to, just try things and, see what works. But yeah, this shit's just okay. Does it change everything? In a sense, it does. In a sense, it absolutely does. One of the things that UiPath does is browser automation. So they go into UiPath. They're actually using the user interface of a browser, and you're using what is essentially a macro, a set of macros that interact with the web page. If you ever cheated on Neopets, it works a lot. It works very much the same kind of way. So 2, strike up the orchestration. The agentic ecosystem takes shape. Okay, so orchestration is essentially having an agent control other agents and set the initiatives, or maybe take initiatives from humans. I don't think we want AI setting our initiatives for us. Well, it's really people that we want doing that. I hope. There are some issues there. Oh, there's so many issues with having human governments. But you're talking about a workflow or set of workflows even that produce a work process that are being done in ways dictated by an intelligent orchestration machine, most likely powered by a LLM or other sort of generalist model. Although they're probably, I have heard a term large action model, which works a little bit differently. I believe they're going to mention that. I did a skim of this report. I didn't really read it, but that caught my eye. We'll maybe talk a little bit about that. Tech providers create an environment where agents, robots, and people can work together in harmony. Agents being the, quote-unquote AI thing, robots being simple scripts or sets of script, computer programs like we're used to, and people being, us meat creatures that are setting the initiatives and deciding what we get out of it. Number three, agents get to work on long tail automation opportunities. I think they're a bit early on this, but I think this is super, super key. Like, you start digging deep into your data and you find the stuff that could really tell you something, but you might not necessarily be looking at it. So, this is it should be less of a problem in larger organizations which have more people to take a look at this data. But small businesses especially will ignore a lot of data that they could be looking at that could show them the way to a really big opportunity. And of course, we do this because of priorities, right? We want to focus on the most important thing. But within that most important thing, there are little pieces that you very well might be missing. And it's why you have a lot of small businesses. They get to, a point where they've got a decent run rate, 7, 8 figures a year. And now they've got to hire analysts to take a look at their data because the CEO is busy trying to make the big decisions and manage a team. At that level, the CEO doesn't have a general manager, so it's the CEO doing all the management. And there's a lot of data that they're not looking at, and so they have to get people whose job is just to work with and analyze the data to figure out actionable actionable value, get actionable value out of it. And well, you can only look at so much of it. Think about how much you can read, right? How fast you can read, right? Imagine if we had, instead of having to look at all that data, you go into a spreadsheet, you do a pivot table, you do some statistical analysis, and then you come up with your own conclusions based on the results of that analysis. You do some visualizations, and you come up with your conclusions. That's a good amount of work. That's a few hours of real work, of deep work. Now you have LLMs that can do a lot of this in minutes and look at a hell of a lot more data than humans can, and print out a whole bunch of these reports that could simply be read by someone whose job is to read these reports and look at the things that may or may not seem right. And so you end up getting a lot of potential gains there just by being able to look at more data. This is what I mean by long tail automation. That's one example of long tail automation. That's the stuff that you're not necessarily doing, that maybe you didn't think about, but is actually pretty important. Or even other long tail opportunities like the little teeny tiny tasks that take a particular worker 30 minutes a day that they have tried to automate away with scripts and macros that they weren't able to do. And now you have LLMs that can potentially do it, but they haven't been able to do it with only the LLM. So now if they're able to have an agent do that, they could save 30 minutes a day of their time and put that time into work that better furthers the business's objectives. So job sharing with the machine, the great work reallocation begins. So I haven't really decided how I think about this philosophically. I've heard of schools of thought of thinking instead of thinking in terms of an employee in a job description. You could either think of the work itself as a process, which I think most companies generally do anyway, or think of it as a set, instead of a process, a holistic process, just individual tasks that need to be done, and removing the human from all of that. I think philosophically this might be from a workforce perspective, it might be the way to go, but philosophically I don't think it's necessarily a good idea, because there are going to be humans left in the organization, and we have to decide, okay, well, what is their actual value? But that's, I still haven't really made my mind philosophically on that, so I'm sure somebody in the comments will, say something. Who best can do the task, people or machines? Enterprises rethink jobs from the ground up. This, I think, is very intelligent, of course. Built-in AI. What the fuck does that mean? Built-in AI lifts enterprises from the trough of disillusionment. Companies struggle to capture AI value by themselves, but tech companies make up the gap. No. Not no as in never, but no as in not right now. I think I mean, we're almost 3 years after the release of ChatGPT, and there's still so much that has been done, or there's a gap between what it can do and what it's actually doing. And that gap, I think, is actually pretty wide. I had it like this. It's actually probably like this. And these fucking giant AI companies, they just won't stop. They're bigger, bigger, bigger. But we still haven't gotten nearly as much of the value as we can out of them. So yeah, I think number 5 is, I think we're gonna make progress this year on this. And by the trough of disillusionment, look, I've read a statistic, and I can't back this statistic up, that 3 out of 4 AI projects fail. So like only 1 in 4 actually bring the promised ROI or anything close to that. Again, I don't know if that statistic is real, but it's one I keep seeing in articles and whatnot. But this should surprise nobody. I mean, any sort of tech implementation is going to there's going to be some waste inevitably, especially as early as we are today. Yeah, there's going to be waste. From rags to riches. I love that. From rags to riches. New tools tame the data deluge. So I'm going to look up the definition of rag because I knew it and now I don't know it. So sue me. Retrieval augmented generation is the process of... Okay, so rags, retrieval augmented generation, is the process of optimizing the output of a large language model so it references an authoritative knowledge base outside of its training data sources before generating a response. Okay, yeah, so that's what the big LLMs are doing with their web search. When you connected web search, that was a big thing. That was awesome. It's kind of changed the way a lot of people search for stuff. And I think in the next year, like I would say 12 months or less, you're going to start seeing the big search engines really integrated, and not in the half-assed way that Google has with their AI shitty overviews that tell you nothing, just give you bullshit data. But they actually have like a mode where you can, do LLM first. And I think that's kind of where we're going, especially if we want to explicitly say our intent with a search. So this year, context is king. Knowledge graphs are power, and knowledge graphs are power, and LLMs are living larger. 7, regulation escalation. The world acts to rein in AI's power. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a comment on that. Personally, I guess I do have a comment on it. I welcome regulation. Yes, please do it. Which is unusual for a marketer to say. Like, you got to understand, 2021, 2022 is actually very difficult for a lot of internet marketers because of this rapid shift. And we knew it was coming. We talked about it for years. We knew it was coming. And yet we still got blindsided by the fact that, oh shit, we've actually got data privacy regulations, and companies are starting to, care about how other companies use their data. Oh no, right? We got stupidly blindsided by this, but we should not be surprised that is the direction that things are going. Pissed a lot of marketers off, but we survived. We're fine. Lawmakers in the courts press in on their quest to regulate the virtual world. I get it. I'm not gonna read. Am I gonna read all this? I guess I could read all this. How much time do I got? I got plenty of time. AI moves from thought to action as the age of agentic AI dawns. Blech. I hate it. Not the idea, but I hate this flavor copy. I don't like it. It's time to call your agent. Okay, I like that. Gen AI has laid the groundwork for a great leap forward in applied AI, one that will profoundly transform organizations, the people who work in those organizations, and the very nature of work itself. Ooh. That leap forward is agentic AI. Oh my god. A type of artificial intelligence. Ugh. That word means nothing. Stop using it. I mean, we're not going to stop using it. We have to keep using it, but, it means nothing. That enables software agents to plan, make decisions, and adapt autonomously and on the fly. Ooh. Built on a foundation of Gen AI and large language models, LLM, but given new powers to plan and act through an ensemble of large action models, LM, there we go, large action models, or LAMs, okay, whatever that is. Hopefully we get to learn what those are today. Other advanced AI, these goal and action-oriented agents can act autonomously to take on a multitude of complex tasks, nuanced decisions, and end-to-end processes. Cool. This new cadre of virtual workers does not need to rely on business rules or follow tightly predefined processes to get their job done. Instead, agents will be able to leverage their ability to respond to plain language prompts and event triggers, reason through complex processes, take a series of actions to reach a goal, and just do the wrong thing and fuck up. Sorry, I said that. And learn and improve. They'll be able to plan for and direct the resources, and tools required to take these actions, including, most notably, RPA robots. So RPA, again, robotic process automation, that's what UiPath is about. I'll give you an example. Let's say you decided to install UiPath on your Windows 11 machine. Right. Let's say you wanted to do that. You would then have access to, among many other things, a data scraper that you can use to automatically scrape data from websites. And it works through the user interface of the browser. So it acts much like a human would, that is, clicking things, typing things, highlighting things, copying things, and then taking what that you've copied and then pasting it into a spreadsheet. And that's one of the simplest things to build. Professionals are doing, a hell of a lot more with that. But then, here you could pause the video and think, what could you do with an LLM and a data scraper? Think about that. The advent of agents changes everything to come. Imagine, if you will, the opportunities to redesign business processes for greater speed, efficiency, and accuracy, to reallocate work between humans and agents. I don't know. Is it just me, or like being called humans, like we're just meat things? Well, love that. To reallocate work between humans and agents so people are freer to create and collaborate. Collaborate. I don't think AI would make that mistake, so I think this might have been written by a human. Wow. To redefine the basis of competition and reconceive the operating model for the agentic age. Imagine working in an organization where agents are making 15% of decisions autonomously, which Gartner predicts will happen by 2028. 15% is, that's a number. Like, I don't know where Gartner is getting this information. Actually, I could find out. It's probably in the footnotes, but 15%. Who gives a shit? I think of it this way. Let's say you're an insurance agent, right? You're an insurance agent. You're on the call with, a prospective customer, and what do you say at the end? Hey, I'll get you your quote, right? You get them. You're not actually, as the insurance agent, you don't make up the quote. You've got the actuaries doing all that, right? So to the insurance agent, if the actuaries were gone, it really wouldn't make a difference in their workflow. Now, if the insurance agent was gone and the, actuary stuff was just done entirely by computers, which most of it is. I mean, you have the actuaries there to make sure that everything is good. It's them who are using the computers. But it's algorithms that are actually calculating your insurance premiums. From the customer's perspective, it really doesn't change much at all, except maybe their pricing, but probably not. Will Agentic become endemic? Signs point to yes. First mover success in a wide range of use cases and industries, which have demonstrated significant improvements in speed, reaction time, personalization, and efficiency and innovation, are stirring up interest among both technology analysts and corporate leadership. blah, 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 top 25, blah, blah. Global expenditures on agentic AI have jumped from 0 in 2023 because you made up the term in 2023. I mean, having LLMs, okay, it had been possible to have LLMs write and then act in an environment where that code can then be executed. That's been possible since more or less day one well, I guess, it's not really day one. It's probably like day, year 10, but really it's, for us, those of us who got access to ChatGPT on that day, that was day one. You've been able to do that since then. And that's technically an agent, right? But what it's talking about is agents specifically built to achieve business goals. Yeah, so, okay, I actually don't give a fuck about any of these numbers. That's all well and good. We all know that this is growing. Cool. And I don't care that 71% of executives say that AI agent will drive higher levels of automation in their workflows. Okay. 52% they say they plan to use agents in 2025. Okay, that part is interesting. That's interesting. So sentiment, of course, people have a positive sentiment about it, even those who have tried and failed, because we know that the technology is still young. So it's saying that our 25 to-dos: learn more about agentic AI and agentic automation, launch at least one process, blah, blah, blah. And along those lines, keep an eye on early movers or become one yourself. It's almost like they help people build software. Wow. Okay. The agentic, strike up the orchestration, the agentic ecosystem takes shape. Automation companies get to work so agents can too. Yes, but not this year, I don't think. I think that takes time. Okay, what are they saying? Human workplace without defined roles, systems, and processes would be chaotic, underperforming, and underproductive. And the same holds for a virtual workplace. Without enabling infrastructure, orchestration, and controls, agentic AI won't scale effectively. That's probably true, but I can think of a couple arguments that would say that might not be true. I mean, if these language models get big enough and big enough and big enough, the idea is that if you just give them a little bit of context, they will be able to get enough. They will be able to, thanks to their extensive training, come up with a response that is possibly just as good, if not better, than piecemealing it out. And that's what the people who build the stuff are saying. But the people who are putting it into production are, at least right now, still saying, yeah, specialized, at least using, the general models to do specialized tasks, and then chunking them out, and then having them do, each of their separate tasks in an orchestrated fashion is the way. If we're just trying to get things done now, yeah, I would agree. Orchestration is the way. Okay. To capture agentic AI's full potential, enterprises will require vibrant agentic infrastructures. Technology must be capable of enabling a multitude of agents to work effectively across fragmented technology landscapes and highly complex operations. Okay. It must enable collaboration between agents, robots, and people while providing control, visibility, and active governance. Yeah, those, of course, humans, we're the ones who care about control, visibility, and active governance, because it's us who get punished if things go wrong. I think that we need to make sure that system stays in place, and not, suing OpenAI because it fucked up your business. I think that's stupid. I think it's the implementer's fault. While many pieces of the capabilities already exist, the complete ecosystem for enterprise agentic automation hasn't yet fully coalesced, but it's starting to emerge. Fair. So UiPath does offer an orchestrator. I have not yet played with it, though. Blah, blah, blah. Innovate. Orchestration is one of the most important pieces of the agentic ecosystem, critical for coordinating agents' tasks, managing workflows, and optimizing operations across the complex patchwork of enterprise technology, system, and apps. This capability must be able to support multiple agents working separately or in collaboration, knitting together decisions and actions into coherent sequences. Well, coherent to us, and making sure that, that that they actually achieve the objectives that they're set out to achieve. It needs to facilitate handoffs among AI agents and RPA robots, giving agents ready access to the robotic arms and legs they need to get the work done. Okay, so with experience, that's a lot harder than it sounds, because the AI stuff can very easily spit out an output that the RPA can't actually work with. So yeah, I mean, this is getting to... So there's this idea called, healing, right? Having the agent heal itself and fix these errors using their own intelligent technology. But yeah, I mean, this is still a problem in 2025. An example being, we have an AI agent print out a file that is to be uploaded to a program that then takes that file and turns it into what is effectively executable code. And then the output ends up, having just one little thing wrong with it, and then the code is either unexecutable or it does something very, very bad. And you might say, okay, well then have an LLM check to make sure that it's like, easier said than done. Easier said than done, because if that LLM does not have experience with that kind of code in that program, it won't necessarily know that the output is not to be trusted. I'll give you an example with UiPath. I was able to jerry-rig an agent creating agent with UiPath, but it sucks, and here's the reason. What the LLM will output is a series of prompts, or it will ask you if it wants to export an XAML file, which is essentially an XML file that is the type of file that UiPath reads in order to set up a workflow within its program. Except you cannot, at least through Studio Web, you cannot just upload an XAML file. ChatGPT did not know this. And the reason it doesn't know this is because this isn't really written. I mean, it's not even written in the documentation, right? So you would have to just know by reading the forums that it's not possible. And it's little things like that, getting, and that's of course code, which I would trust an LLM with before I trust it with actually doing stuff on my computer, which I've gotten it to do. Right data, right agent, right time. Yes. Context grounding, trigger alerting, memory and learning systems. Yeah. So I'm aware that what I just described, the problem I just described, is not insurmountable by any means. Like, it's, if you have, like, a simple solution would be to just let it fail and run again. Like, figure out a way to make it fail. Let's say, if the program that you're using just can't accept the file, let it run it from the beginning if it doesn't accept the file. Now, if it's able to accept the file and then it runs something fucky, then I would just put in some sort of human layer where the thing is uploaded as a draft or something else, and then the human is the one that manually approves it. But of course, this is, a lot of humans don't want to do that, but I think this is kind of what will, the human in the loop idea will end up taking a hell of a lot more. It'll be a lot more important as we go into 2025 and 2026, as we figure out pretty quickly which tasks we should 100% not trust these LLMs to do. In concert with agentic orchestration capabilities, agentic automation platforms will also need to provide a place to rapidly build, configure, and launch a wide variety of agents for different processes, levels of authority, and workplace personas. Moreover, they should include a robust prompt library and pre-configured agents, things that can significantly reduce agent development time and boost performance. Yeah, absolutely. No disagreements. Last but certainly not least, the technology must include ways to continually monitor agent activities and assess performance, as well as security, governance, and human-in-the-loop capabilities. Agent-built workflows, agent actions, model input and output, and the logic and data underlying agent decisions, in fact, everything the agent does, needs to be transparent, governable, predictable, and secure. So right now, the way I look at the agents that are in production right now, they're effectively juniors doing very specialized tasks and having fail safes that prevent them from, if they fuck up, preventing that fuck up from causing a cascade of fuck ups throughout the organization. That is what we need. That is what we want. C'est tout. Clearly, the agentic ecosystem comprises a complex set of capabilities, but make no mistake, it's rapidly coming together in 2025 and coming to an enterprise near you. And Daniel Dines, the CEO and co-founder of UiPath, without orchestration, there is no agentic AI. For now. I don't think forever. Maybe. I've heard this idea of the swarm, right? So you have a bunch of different agents doing really, really small specialized things that it's trained to do, and this swarm of really specialized things ends up creating an extremely powerful agent with a very with robust capabilities. The idea being borrowed from swarm intelligence, which you find in bees and ants and whatnot, and their ability to perform what looks to us like intelligent behavior. Things like, growing fungi and, milking aphids for honeydew. These are things that ants do. Or bees, which will, pile on each other to kill a predator by vibrating and using heat to literally cook the predator. All sorts of crazy stuff that no single animal is capable of figuring out, but these very simple, effectively automatons of insects figure out by just having millions of them working toward a common goal. So your to-dos: watch for advances in agentic AI technology, yes. Develop your plan for establishing and scaling your agentic AI ecosystem. Whoa, okay, plan, sure, but take steps to move it forward. Maybe we should be a bit more cautious. I don't know. I don't want to be, the guy that keeps saying, "Oh, we gotta wait, we gotta wait." Maybe siloed tests. Test it in a silo first. Make sure that the output is not spilling out into other things in the organization. Small pilot tests with small teams. Go slow to go fast, because there's going to be a point where we will be able to go really fast and take full advantage of the technology. It took a long time for us to fully take advantage of internet technology. In fact, I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we have taken full advantage of the internet. I mean, the LLMs could not have happened without the internet. Think about that. You don't have LLMs without the internet, because it would be impossible to take every piece of archived data, right? All the stuff that's in universities and whatnot. It took decades for us to digitize all of these books and all of these languages, stack on stack on stack on stack. That's kind of how the innovation happens. Okay, trend number 3, agents get to work on long tail automation opportunities. Interesting. Agentic automation is an equal opportunity. That's not true. Applicable across different industries, departments, and activities. And it opens a long tail of new workflows to end-to-end automation. So where will agentic automation gain its earliest footholds, and how can that information help you plan your agentic agenda? Some areas to consider. Customer service. That's not new, bro. Hyper-personalized sales and marketing. Again, not new. Equipped with real-time data, context, and the right demand and behavioral predictive models, agents can either support human reps in providing one-to-one service or use their own conversational abilities to provide it themselves. Yeah, I mean, right now we're, AI SDRs, they're surging. They're surging big time. If you want to go make some money right now, sell an AI SDR for a particular industry and become the tool for that industry. It'll work. Business operations. Agents' ability to continuously monitor and assess vast amounts of streaming data and then decide, plan, and execute in real time, equip them to autonomously manage supply chains, inventory levels, demand forecasting, and logistics planning. Oh yeah, that's happening. That's happening. Like, it's happening right now. I'm hoping that small business gets access to a level of ERP service that it didn't before, thanks to agentic automation. And hopefully one of y'all will bring it out. Patient care. Oh no. I have friends in healthcare on all sides, nurses, doctors, insurance people, all sorts. Ugh. Complex data environments, continual monitoring of information flows, probabilistic, non rules based decisions made in a changing environment. Patient care is a great place for agents to flex their AI powered muscle. Yeah, it's also a great place for them to kill people. It's just. I know. Flame me if you want. Software development. Oh, yeah. AI is already deeply entrenched in coders' activities. For example, it is creating more than 25% of the code for Google's products. Well, yeah, like if you're a senior developer, you're not going to vibe code. You're going to use LLMs to type faster than you, right? And, possibly even come up with a function that, maybe you're having trouble exactly coming up with, doing it piece by piece. Or you could vibe code if you know nothing about coding. You just ask it to build you something and then just, see if it works and then tell it why it's not working and then just go through that loop until you get something that works. Yeah, that's another way to waste 8 hours. I'm kidding. You can actually build some pretty cool stuff vibe coding. And it is true that programmers are using AI quite a lot. But they're using it to save time and possibly to come up with ideas. I wouldn't say it makes them better coders, though. Scientific pharma research. Yeah. By autonomously designing and running experiments, analyzing results, and formulating hypotheses, agents can expand laboratories' capacity and speed up innovation. So that is true. And I can't speak too much about that, but I do know that we have, Google scientists, like co-scientists, which will, it's basically a tool for scientists to help them come up with hypotheses and do literature review, which takes up a lot of researchers' time. And of course, this is time well spent. I don't think that scientists should replace doing literature review with just printing out AI summaries of the latest literature. That would be very stupid, and I hope they don't do that. But if they can use these sorts of tools to help them do a faster literature review or review a lot more literature, then I think it could be very, very helpful. Agentic automation might be your answer anyway. You've got complex, costly, labor-intensive, data-saturated, and time-sensitive processes. Write these down, kids. It'll be on the pop quiz. Look for use cases that share these qualities. They're where your agents can do their best work and have the most impact. Okay, in short order, create your short list of best use cases. Honestly, I think that's a great idea. Just, look at your organization, see where it could happen. I've heard a saying, delusion is the solution. Come up with the big pipe dream, and then go down like really, really nitty gritty and look at the processes that are currently happening in your organization that are complex, costly, labor intensive, data saturated, and time sensitive. Know who and what you'll need to implement them. Yeah, important. Implement a test case or two. Yeah, again, I think siloed tests on very specific outputs or very specific objectives, I think that's the way to go. So McKinsey says, or someone at McKinsey, in an article, the value that agents can unlock comes from their potential to automate a long tail of complex use cases that have been historically difficult to address in a cost or time efficient manner. Yes, that makes sense. Okay, here's interesting. It's kind of a sidebar, but this might be the most interesting part of all. Where are UiPath customers adopting Agentic? Here's what we're seeing at the leading edge: intelligent document processing and communications mining. Sure. Banking and financial services. Scares me. Okay. For investment advisors, agents collect, analyze, and develop reports on financial data. Okay, that's fine. In loans, they're doing things like reviewing documentation, formulating decisions, auto-generating and processing all the papers. Okay. Good luck, banks. If AI bankrupts you, you only have yourself to blame. Agents are also monitoring for fraud and compliance. Yeah, they've been doing that for some time. Although you wouldn't have called them agents, you would just call it AI. It's just machine learning models that try and detect fraud. Those have been around for a while. Customer support. Oh, yeah. Some AI agents gather data and offer real-time recommendations and treatments. Others enable end-to-end hyper-personalized agent-to-customer interactions. Yeah, we're definitely seeing that. Insurance and healthcare claims management. Oh, geez. All right. That's, I think, the most that's the most controversial. So I do have a friend at United. He's not involved with claims, but he will, maybe as a matter of course, deny that that's actually what they're doing. But we do know that they're using them to speed up claims processing. You take the insurance companies and you take the hospitals, like they have people employed to do all that stuff. And it's a major pain in the ass. So yeah, I do really think that there is an opportunity there to reduce at least that part, formulating the claim, submitting the claim, and, doing all that bit. And then processing the claim on the insurance company side. I think there is a lot of room there. As far as the actual claim itself, that should terrify everybody. That should really terrify everybody. Manufacturing. AI agents monitor the flow of Internet of Things data 24/7 in supporting equipment maintenance, product quality, and supply chain optimization. Yeah, I can't really speak to manufacturing. I guess I can ask some people who are in manufacturing what's actually going on with AI agents. But I think you'll probably find that it depends on the company and the department. I think some shops are taking more advantage than others. Trend number 4, job sharing with the machine. The great work reallocation begins. You make it sound so ominous. We begin to rework how work gets done. Rework. We work. A study from OpenAI estimates that AI could take on half the work of almost 20% of all workers. Well, yeah, of course, it's a study by OpenAI. Of course they're going to say some shit like that. McKinsey estimates that by 2030, 30% of all work hours will be performed by machines, not people. I think that's honestly fair. I mean, you look at, let's go back to manufacturing. What was manufacturing 100 years ago? Well, it was people. Okay, let's say 200 years ago. 200 years ago was all people and some very simple machines. 100 years ago, you had more complex machines manned by people in order to do a lot of work. And now we've got machines that are controlled by robots, managed by people and engineers. Not that engineers aren't people, but not workers. You got engineers who are like not doing the hammer and whatnot. You have workers, laborers, and engineers working together, and there's a lot fewer of them. So over the 200 years, you have a ton of people making relatively little things. Then you have a ton of people making a ton of things. And now you have fewer people making a ton of things. And that's the trend in manufacturing, at least. It very well may be that in these computer-related fields, you'll have very, very few people doing, making an absurd amount of stuff, way more stuff than we ever need. I mean, you look at the AI slop that's available on YouTube right now. Most people wouldn't fucking sit here and just blab to a camera for God knows how long. They put a fucking TTS on it and upload it and call it a day. They're not trying to put time into their content. Okay. These studies were completed before agentic AI had fully emerged. So it does pull up a point. Like, fuck the numbers. How much... Okay, I said fuck the numbers, and then I asked a number question. Will we be entirely reliant on these machines? And the answer is, I think so. Given the possibilities arriving in the agentic age, the new imperative for enterprise workforce management is redesign and reassign. Why did I look over there? The camera's over here. Redesign and reassign. That should scare the fuck out of everybody who's employed. Starting in 2025, but extending through the end of the decade and beyond, enterprises will need to zero in on the huge challenges of reinventing operating models, rescoping jobs, retraining people, reallocating tasks and processes between virtual and human workers. So my input is that if you're starting something now, or you've got a very new business, or a very small business, this is going to be way easier for you because you don't have the weight of all this software, all of these people, these employment contracts, all of these agency contracts, all of these partnerships with different companies. You don't have all of that weighing you down and potentially preventing you from implementing the things that are going to be the highest value from this technology or set of technologies. If you're a new company, you can start with it from the jump. Like right now, I did a Shopify video where I showed where you can have it build your store. You just ask what you tell it what you sell, and it'll build a fully designed store for you. Just tell it what you sell, and it'll take the default template and turn it into a color scheme and give you some body copy and everything. It's crazy. And then you go into the product, the individual product pages. You could easily write custom copy for that. Click button, generate images, upload, go to Canva and upload the image and, have it automatically edited and all sorts of stuff. It's crazy what's possible now. And next year it's going to be even crazier, where you just ask Shopify's AI to do everything for you. It's fucking nuts. But you don't really have that benefit if you've already got something built. If you're starting something new, that just means that the entry barriers have gone way down. So a project I'm working on is a digital marketing agent, and there's already some out there, but this one is going to essentially allow you, not allow you, it's going to look at the data, all of the data, and give you summaries and recommendations for what's going on, even when you're not looking at the data. Right. Very simple agent. It's something I've got running for me right now. I'm going to release it to everybody at some point. But yeah, I mean, if you're new, if you have a new business, you don't necessarily want to pay $5,000 a month to an analyst who's going to take the very little data you've already got and then tell you what you already know. Instead, you're going to pay a software, $20 a month, to do all that analysis and send you all the typical recommendations and do it on a regular basis. And it'll be just as good with all the charlatans in this industry. Like, it'll be better than a lot of the stuff that they're saying. The C-suite is on the front lines of this change. Yeah, the C-suite, the C-suite in general will be very disrupted. And we'll see what happens after that. The C-suite is on the front lines of this change, challenged to usher their companies into a dimly lit but fast approaching future state. They'll be assisted by a burgeoning rank of consultants and operations designers specialized in conceiving of new AI operating models, managing massive change, and creating and implementing cross-enterprise agentic systems. Yeah. Human resources will have to retrain and upskill oh my God. Human resources will have to retrain and upskill tens of thousands of employees in using new AI tools and partnering effectively with agents. So, back in the 90s, a product came out called Windows 95. And Windows 95 was bundled with a slew of cheap computers that were sold to enterprises by the truckload. And every enterprise that was operating in the 90s one day got a truck pulling into its depot, unloading dozens, if not hundreds, of prefabricated computers, probably Dell or Gateway, and loaded them up and had a big old, I almost said AI, a big old IT team, running cable, got the bloody cable, coming in, setting all this stuff up. And then after it was all said and done, all of the workers came down, sat at their desk, and had to figure out what the fuck they were looking at. It's like, hey, we've got a computer, and you've got these 40-year-old boomers at the time who were they didn't know what the fuck they were looking at. They didn't know oh, what is this computer thing, it's calculated. Oh, it's like a typewriter. Well, I don't type. What are you, So, yeah, I mean, this, in a sense, it has happened before. And the people who couldn't keep up were simply fired, or if they were lucky enough to already be at a high enough position in the hierarchy where they didn't even need to learn how to use a computer. They just had their assistant or one of their subordinates do it. Yeah, I mean, this, I think, is what we're facing now. And especially with working together with agents. Not because, and this is, and I think this will probably be echoed by reality. I think the future is, at least for a lot of these roles, not interacting with agents through a typical software, right? At least not solely, but interacting with them through any sort of natural language. So email, Slack, WhatsApp, Google Meet, whatever it is. I think that's really where we're already there now. And I'm not talking about a chatbot slapped onto an agent. Actually, that is exactly what I'm talking about. And the reason is, think about it. If you are talking with a freelancer or one of your subordinates, and you have a problem with something that they've done, right? Say they've printed out they've given you a deliverable, you don't like it, right? Well, what are you gonna do, right? You're gonna tell them, hey, there's something wrong with this deliverable, please fix it, or something along that lines, right? That is how you should be interacting with the agents, right? And yes, of course, there are probably going to be people, in the loop at different stages. You're gonna have people interacting with the software that powers the agents. I don't think that's going to go away, but I think the stakeholders, the major stakeholders who are working with these agents are going to do so via natural language and not just be sat there in front of a computer screen. Think about it. You can get emails and Slack on your phone. You should be able to interact with an agent through your phone. Whether you're in the office or at Starbucks or in fucking Cancun sipping pina coladas, you should be able to interact with it, right? Or at least interact with someone who can interact with it. Yeah. I know that was a long ramble. This whole thing is a long ramble. I've been rambling for an hour. Maybe this is what I should be doing. Fuck. Too bad it's not interesting. They'll need to find new workers with the right combination of technological skills, core capabilities, and critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity. You need to find literal unicorns, bro. You need to go into the fucking Sherwood Forest and, with a fucking wooden short bow and some arrows with goose feathers, and you gotta go shoot a unicorn. Yeah, okay. You're gonna have some trouble finding these people. Now, with that said, if you can become one of those people, I think your pay rate could be very, very high. Now, if you cannot become one of these people, your pay rate very well may be zero. And that is very scary. And we should keep an eye on that. IT doesn't get off easy either, have they ever? They're the ones who will be asked to build out an AI and automation-infused workplace ecosystem that encourages collaboration among virtual workers, human workers, and AI tools. And the current Automation Center of Excellence, COE, will emerge as the new center of agentic automation, skilled at building and managing agents as they go about the swift completion of their appointed round. So here's an idea, right? You have this center of excellence, you have these orchestrators, you have these agents. So center, orchestrators, agents, and then the tools and the code and the LLMs and blah, blah, blah within these agents. The orchestrator is given the goals, right? The goals are within that center of excellence. The orchestrators are given these goals, and the agents go out and try to solve these goals. Well, what happens if the orchestrators cannot achieve the goal? An intelligent agent or an intelligent orchestrator or an intelligent ecosystem will then create that agent. Think about that. It will find the tools necessary, integrate, implement, right? Find the data sources, pay whatever they need to pay, and they're going to go out and create the agent that they need to do for the job. That's the dream. That is, that's the goal that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's kind of where we're trying to get to. The idea that we can just build, not just we, right? That's where we're at now, us building workers, right? But in the future, it's the orchestrators that are going to be able to build these workers at will. That should scare the fuck out of everybody. But it's also the dream, right? That's also really where we're marching toward, because it is horribly inconvenient to have to hire a contractor, deal with contractor bullshit, right? Just to get one little task done, and then you got to shell them out $2,000 and tell them to fuck off, right? What if you can have an agent do all that for you? What if you might not know the agent that you need, but what if the center of excellence, the overall, that's where all the data is and all this, what if it knows and is able to create it, right? Because we know that agents can write code, run code, but that's all an agent is, right? So clearly the agents can create new agents. Yeah. Unions, governments, academia, policymakers, this is a global phenomenon that will touch everyone as it plays out. Many thought leaders are predicting significant disruption in labor supply and demand patterns. McKinsey thinks that it might be good for workers in STEM, healthcare, legal, and creative areas, which tend to pay more. But the flip side is that we'll have an oversupply of office workers, production workers, and customer service reps. Interesting. So here's the thing about the labor market. So the labor market is made up of human beings, right? And human beings, their value in the labor market is determined by how much organizations are willing to pay for their labor. Now, if you have an oversupply, that is, you have too many humans with a particular skill set, right? And all of the slots are full, well, that skill set is now no longer worth anything. And that worker is only now worth his next best skill set. And for those that continue working, the way they work will be transformed. The way you say this shit is so ominous, bro. Like, it's almost like we're not even, like, at this point, we're saying, taking this shit off. What do I need this for? I've got the mic here. We're just saying the quiet part out loud. Yeah, like AI is going to take a lot of people's jobs. Yeah, it won't take your job. Okay. Think about it this way. Let's say you are AI forward, right? You understand it, you know it, you're comfortable working with agents. The year's 2027, agents are everywhere. You're comfortable working with them in a natural language environment, software, whatever. If you are responsible for a particular outcome in an organization, that then means you are also responsible if and when that agent fucks up. And you have to know, I don't care if you're not in IT, you have to know what an agent fuck up looks like, right? And what to do about it. Now, when we're building these workflows, right now, I think the safest way is to test out all the different things, see what the error rate is, and then if the error rate is just too low, just plug a human in there. Like, just have a human in the loop doing that part. Yeah, like don't fucking don't trust these guessing machines with your entire organization. It doesn't make any sense. The takeaway for the coming year: a huge wave of change is building under us. Yeah, we're surfing it right now. You need to start now to imagine the future and position your organization to ride into it successfully. Easier said than done. Your 25 to-dos. Use process mining and task mining to identify jobs with the highest portion of AI doable tasks. So that in itself, a lot of people don't actually know how to do that or even what that is. I think that can be turned very easily into a business. Just doing process mining and task mining for a company and then handing that off to an actual implementer. Like, yeah. Convene HR employees, business line owners, IT, and operation to begin the process of mapping out your company's workforce of the future, identifying the right agent technology and tools, upskilling and retraining workers, and getting ready to reallocate. Why is nobody talking about the big fucking elephant in the room, which is, what if workers aren't keen on this? What if workers, you get them into the room and you start, you get your fucking presentation in, and it's like, we're building the workforce of the future, and then just morale dips into the fucking toilet. What do you do then? Are you just gonna, like, of course you're going to look at it and be like, oh, those people need to go. But, what if that's not the case? What if those are the humans that need to be in the loop, right? What if that process you're imagining, right, doesn't pan out? And now these workers are sitting there thinking, well, fuck, like, this is... If this is how you see me, just and of course organizations as a whole, right, are going to see, individuals in this way, but you as a boss really shouldn't see these people this way, right? Then you talk about upskilling. It's like, well, then you have a similar situation, and you could say, well, cry me a river for all those, boomers who couldn't get used to computers. And honestly, fair. I think that's fair. But on some level, it's not as fair as we would like to think. It's like, okay, well, it's just capitalist life, right? It's just how the labor market works. But these are people you're talking about, and these people, agents or not, still hold the keys to your organization. So then the question is, how do you implement them while also keeping morale up? How do you implement these agents while also making sure that your employees know that they're valued, so that they don't just look at it as, oh, this is an opportunity to learn some AI skills and get the fuck out of this company? Food for thought. And of course, getting ready to reallocate. Okay, trend number 5. Built-in AI lifts enterprises from the trough of disillusionment. I think this is the one I really disagreed with. Because, I'll be honest, like, every fucking software tool has shoehorned an LLM into its offering, and the LLM blows. Like, and I don't have a single exception. I mean, aside from the ones that just didn't implement the LLM at all. Like, take Shopify, for example. They've got a pretty powerful AI. They call it an agent, but, and it can do stuff. You can ask it to change some colors and, move things around. Okay. And it's bad at it. And, and I'm sure it'll get better, right? I'm sure it'll get better. But just shoehorning it in, and this is a good example. Like, this is an example of someone that's of a company that's actually doing it in a way that's actually useful, having the AI be an action taker within the software. So not an autonomous agent, but essentially a code writer. And that's actually been quite good. Same with the GitHub's Copilot, and Claude, and all of these other LLMs that write code. But then you look at the ones that's not what they're doing. They're just kind of spitting out some text, and it's just not a good experience. I can tell personally, I don't like the chatbot experience. Like, I'll do it if I'm looking to get an answer to a specific question that's going to be found in a knowledge base that I can't necessarily, parse my way through. But as far as asking, yeah, it's and okay, maybe I'm biased because I'm thinking 2023, 2024. That's what these companies did. They just shoved an LLM into their software tool and said, "Hey users, we've got it too. Look at us." And okay, maybe 2025 will be different, and we'll have things more like the Shopify's AI agent or whatever they're calling it, where actions are taken within the app, and you could even set up automations and and have something that actually doesn't fail that often. Because that's really the because when you try as a user, when you try something and it fails, it doesn't feel good. Like as a user of a software, you don't it's frustrating enough to deal with troublesome navigation and broken links and all that. That all sucks. But then you're asking it a question and not knowing if you're going to get the right answer, and then you get an answer and it might be halfway right, it might be completely wrong, it might be completely right, and you just don't know. It's not a good experience. Anyway, now let's read it to see if this agrees with me. Lets users reap gains without pain. Disagree, for the reason I just said. When it comes to capturing AI's potential, the C-suite has become a bit discouraged, and not without reason. Okay, so it is agreeing with me. They're spending many millions of dollars on AI, but about half of all AI prototypes make it into production. Yeah, I remember building a chatbot back in 2018 for the company I was working for, and it did not make it into production. And I was blamed for its failure, but it was rules-based. It just couldn't do what management wanted it to do. Sorry, ManyChat. 70% of respondents in a recent survey say they've launched 30% or fewer of their planned initiatives. So it's small wonder that 2/3 are ambivalent or dissatisfied with their own organization's ability to capture AI's gains. But that doesn't mean that enterprises aren't getting a lot of value from AI. It's just coming from a different place. Enterprise technology companies, whose use of AI within their products has simply exploded over the past year. And it's not slowing down anytime soon. In fact, Gartner predicts by 2026, more than 80% of enterprise software vendors will have embedded AI just within their products, just up from just 1% in 2023. Well, yeah, because it's easy to put an LLM in a piece of software. That shit's easy. Text box, query, not hard. Anyone can do it. One of the most ubiquitous AI use cases, copilots. Yep. They're flying high and blah, 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 blah. Ours is UiPath Autopilot. I have used UiPath Autopilot. It is very interesting. It works like 50% of the time, but you're able to. I kind of want to show it off now. What if I show it off now? I'll show it off now. Fuck it. All right, let's show it off. Okay, so AI Autopilot. Boom. So I'm in Chrome now because this thing works in Chrome and not Firefox. Okay. So this is all the stuff I've been playing with. Okay, so I'm going to show you how Autopilot works. So we're not going to create agentic process or agent because we're not going to do that. We don't need to do that. So let's start with, so we've got a trigger. We'll do manual. Now we're going to do autopilot. Autopilot. Where's autopilot? Ah, boom. There we go. So autopilot. Boom. Okay. Let's see. Build me an automation. I know I'm not prompting this correctly. Whatever. Sue me. Build me an automation that visits Google, gets the first search result, pulls its URL, then pastes it into a Google Sheet. Let's see if it's able to do that. Boom, generate. So this is what UiPath Autopilot does, and I'm interested to see what it produces. Okay. Open the Google website using a browser. Search for a query on Google. Get the URL of the first search result. Open a Google Sheet. No. That's not what I said. So let's see what it's able to do. I said paste it. You got to open the Google Sheet, but you got to excuse me. You got to open the Google Sheet, but you also have to paste the URL. Oh, never mind. It does work. Search engine Google. Search for a query. My search query. Get the URL of the first search result. So it sets, to variable. Well, it's just this variable here. Okay, first result URL. Cool. Okay. So looking at it right now, okay, open the Google website using a browser. Okay, so I need to put this in. So there's a reason why this is the way it works. So Google. Boom. Simple. Search for a query on Google. Search engine Google. Okay, so this is redundant. Search for a query on Google, get the URL for a search result, open a Google Sheet. I'm curious. I want to see if this works. All right. We're going to open up Sheet 1. Okay. It just broke. Whatever. It's fine. Should be okay. Okay, I didn't actually tell it what to search. I didn't actually tell it what to search. Okay, cool. I'm gonna search Pokemon. I don't know. Set variable, so two values, set variable, set value. Huh? Wait, what? To variable. Get the URL of the first. Okay. Huh? What? No, not the list. Selected the wrong thing. Okay. B2. All right, will this work? I'm just gonna give it a name. Curious. All right, let's see what happens. This is probably gonna break because I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah, okay. So autopilot is not foolproof. Especially if you're like me, you don't really know what you're doing. You kind of just fiddle with the apps and try and get something to work. If you're an expert, right? You're probably not going to be using autopilot much at all because you're going to end up with stuff like that. It just doesn't work. I thought that was pretty simple. I thought that was a pretty simple thing to ask it to do. So, okay. About 70% of early users have reported Microsoft Copilot made them more productive and improved their work quality. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. 26% increase in task completion, GitHub's Copilot. Closer to home, UiPath Autopilot for developers has cut automation development time by 75%. Oh, for developers. Okay, so that's not what I was using. And for one of our customers, UiPath Autopilot for testers has eliminated 50% of our manual testing. But there's still more value to be had, centered around getting people to use their copilots. Well, yeah, because they're frustrated at getting poor results. I mean, I guess it's not too different from, you take the stereotypical, small business owner who complains that, oh, there's no good people anymore, if you want to get something done right, you got to do it yourself, and having that kind of mentality. That mentality is rooted in deeply held beliefs and is not going to go away with, just making them use AI. So, something to note. We expect a lot of enterprise activity around training, tracking, and incentivizing end users to get on board with their copilots. Or maybe you just grade them on the quality of their work. How about that? Copilot or not. If they don't want to use the Copilot, then they don't have to use the bloody Copilot. Why do you want to force them to use the Copilot? Doesn't make sense. If you're absolutely sure they're going to get the productivity gains, but who's to say that the productivity gains by using these things are going to be equal across people? Anyway, but there's a lot more AI inside tech companies' offerings, and it's delivering significant productivity, accuracy, and cost savings to their customers. You're just saying that. As an example, take a look at the next page to see how much AI is doing on one of our products, UiPath Test Suite. And that's just UiPath. Multiply this type of innovation across blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah, so they have a point. So their point is that even though workplaces, when they're trying to implement AI themselves and do these custom projects and do all this stuff, they're generally pretty disappointed. Enterprise software is doing, is doing a better job implementing AI into their offerings than a small company could. And when enterprise software that millions of people are using puts this stuff into their product, then yeah, it's going to have a greater reach and more people are going to use it. Your 25 to-dos. Ensure your enterprise fully leverages the AI inside your enterprise technology. That's a big ask. Understand what's there and what makes it possible. Train people on how to apply built-in tools like copilots and habituate usage. Again, I don't think it's going to be necessarily useful for everyone. Like, not every programmer is going to want to use these. And they're not, the ones that are using them, are they going to then become better than those people who aren't? Now, if that's the case, well, then corporations know exactly what to do. Just look at the results. Look at the results. Blah, 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 blah. Ooh, what AI does in UiPath Test Suite? I don't care. Actually, no, let's go through this. Okay, so generate tests for SAP transactions, generate tests for requirements, quality check requirements. Okay, yeah, I can see how just LLMs can do quality check, generating tests, and you could use trained, specialized AI to do that. Search documentation, low-code test automation. Yeah, I mean, it does do that, although not necessarily very well. Perform fuzzy verification. That's actually what it's kind of good at, interestingly enough. Generate synthetic test data. Yeah, that's a pretty common use of AI. Generate coded test automation. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so these are, I wish it, because this doesn't matter to me. It certainly will matter to a tester, right? Okay, fine. But I want to know, how many hours is it actually saving people? I don't know. Trend number 6, from rags to riches. New tools tame the data deluge. New ways emerge to change the data game, and people and models get the win. It's no secret, data overload is dragging us down. According to a Gartner study, almost half of digital workers say they struggle to find the data they need to effectively perform their jobs. Do not doubt it. The average employee wastes almost 3.5 hours a week just dealing with information burden. And 38% of workers say they must work extra hours to get on top of it. Yeah, I mean, it's not just people. Disorganized and scattered data also creates difficulties in building and scaling up AI models. In a recent survey of AI executives, 36% said, AI executives? What the fuck does that mean? 36% say they had difficulties in obtaining good training data for their models, and 39% said ensuring data security and privacy was a major issue. Understandable. New techniques and tools are emerging, blah, 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 to provide new and better solutions to the data dilemma. Chief among them, knowledge graphs, retrieval augmented generation, graph RAG, and internal private LLMs. Interesting. Okay, now it defines all this stuff, which I guess I'll read it. Knowledge graphs, graphical representations of real-world entities like events, concepts, and documents. They connect related bits of information scattered throughout different data repositories that they could drive big gains. For example, by improving a major e-commerce platform's search engine recommendations, they boosted click-through rates by 35%. If they're talking about Amazon or Google Shopping, that's insane. Like, that's billions of dollars. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. CAGRs, sure. Yes, it's totally going to grow in 2030. Retrieval augmented generation improves Gen AI models' performance by giving them access to real-world data while they generate responses, elevating Gen AI from a neat parlor trick to a business advantage. That's true. RAG has helped a global consulting firm cut the time consultants spend searching for information by 40%. Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually crazy now. Like, you can get all the information you need if you combine, and I know this is a very basic and, customer centric view of RAG, but just ChatGPT with Google search, right? Like, it's like the simplest, it's technically RAG, I guess. You could do research on a whole nother level. Like, if you just wanted to spend all day doing research and, post content like this shit, you could totally do that and, sift through it, figure out what's valuable, right? And if you're a domain expert, then you don't have to worry about LLMs spewing out errors because you know what's wrong. And if you're publishing something, you can correct the errors. So if you're an expert, right, the LLMs with data search has been absolutely pivotal. Even doctors are fucking using ChatGPT. Blah, 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 CAGRs. GraphRag brings knowledge graphs into the RAG process, super refining the data flowing through AI systems. The result, better accuracy, fewer hallucinations, computation efficiency, and more context-aware responses. Reduce required tokens from 26% to 97%. That sounds really cool and I think is above my pay grade, so I'm not going to discuss it. Internal or private LLMs are AI models, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I don't think that's the way. I don't think internal private LLMs, I don't think that's the way. Unless you've got a really big company with a fuck ton. Like, maybe that's fine for United Healthcare, but I really don't find that, or like Amazon, like these big companies with an absolute metric fuck ton of data that have an incentive to keep it secret. But other than that, yeah, I really just don't see private LLMs being, very good. Just let it specialize. It's fine. And more speculation on how much people are going to spend. Okay, cool. I don't care about that. 75% improvement in data relevance by using a specialized LLM versus a general LLM. Okay, sure. That doesn't surprise me, especially if you're using a foundational model as the base, so that it's able to formulate, cohesive responses and respond to prompts properly, but then you're putting in their context window the highly relevant information, and then you're submitting questions that are almost tailored to that data. So yeah, I can totally see why you end up getting way better responses. Okay, these four approaches are fueling a step change improvement in how enterprises can access, organize, and leverage their data. Okay. Ask the machine, cool. Yeah, I mean, asking your data is such an important thing, especially if you're not used to reading the data and you don't necessarily know what it means. But if you don't want to know what it means, then you're kind of, reliant on the LLM to tell you, and that could be, that could prevent you from becoming the expert that you need to become in order to really take advantage of this. So your 25 to-dos: as new technologies and tools change what's possible, make transform data management with AI a priority project this year. That is way too general, and people should not do that. Okay, not that they shouldn't do it, but if that's what you're going to come into the meeting with, like, what the fuck does that mean? Okay, trend number 7, regulation escalation. Cute. Did ChatGPT come up with that? The world acts to rein in AI's power. Yes, very interesting. I think we're data protection has to now have this foundation where LLMs are taken into consideration. That's just a fact. While AI continues to unlock new technological frontiers, the window for unfettered experimentation is starting to close. Around the globe, regulators are making it clear that it's time for the industry to mature and embrace a culture of accountability. And the courts are getting into the fray, too, with a number of important AI-related cases around intellectual property, image and data ownership, among other things. Yup. Regulation activity has been building up ahead of steam for a decade, but the stunningly fast and broad adoption of Gen AI has turned up the heat on high. In the US alone, nearly 500 bills have been proposed across all 50 states in 2024. A significant jump from 100. It just says bills. It didn't say AI, it didn't say anything, it just said bills. Like, that's just bills. Surely there have been more bills than that, but I'm just whatever. Congress too is doubling down on AI oversight, proposing twice the number of bills compared to 2023. I hope that means bills related to AI. Who the fuck wrote this? Anyway, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, in particular, isn't messing around. It's already cracked down on data misuse and algorithmic biases in a number of cases, notably against Meta for violating a 2012 order related to facial recognition technology. I'm just going to say it. Cambridge Analytica changed everything. Like, people don't really talk about it much anymore, but it changed everything. It changed how Facebook ads work. It changed how advertisers have been, how do I say this? It's changed how advertisers have to work with and consider their data. And when it comes to basically renting data from other companies, which is essentially what you do when you're using Meta or Google's ad manager, those companies have become a lot more tight-fisted with the data that they'll allow you to use. And this has actually sank many businesses, and people don't even know. Like, it's actually amazing, and that's not even to mention the legal precedents that have taken place, and showing the world the real relationship between government and tech oligarchs. That being that tech oligarchs actually have a hell of a lot more power than they're letting on. Yeah. Globally, the quick uptick in regulatory activity is similar, with the EU's landmark AI Act leading the charge. This sweeping legislation, which took effect in August 2024, uses a risk-based approach to AI applications. Alright, so I don't know if this is misinformation or not, so cool. It outright forbids some applications, such as government scoring, and imposes strict restriction on high-risk systems like those used in employment screening, and healthcare. The AI Act also tackles some of the thorny issues around copyright and content ownership, forcing Gen AI models to disclose their training data and comply with copyright laws. And speaking of copyrights, both the US and EU have recently affirmed that 100% AI-generated output doesn't qualify for a copyright. A human must have been involved. Humans write the prompts. Like, so it's 99 point like what? Oh, and if I, take this work and then I edit it a little bit in Photoshop, is it mine then? Or is it a derivative of a work with no copyright? How the fuck does that work? Confusing as shit, but okay. All this regulatory ruckus is regulatory ruckus. You're cute, AI. Is creating significant uncertainty for organizations around the world. It's not that business leaders don't want legislation. To the contrary, a Deloitte survey of executives found that 78% sought more AI regulation, but they need to know what those regulations will be before they're comfortable moving forward. Yeah, you know what that means? That means, oh, as long as the regulations don't affect me. Beyond legislation, regulatory uncertainty was the largest single reason when companies were asked what was holding their Gen I initiatives back. That doesn't surprise me. You take, these healthcare companies, these security companies, any company that's dealing with a lot of privately or PII, was that personally identifiable information? I think that's what it stands for, PII. If you're handling PII, especially in a heavily regulated industry, yeah, even if you see gains, you might be like, hey, if we got to use this data, we got to make sure that it's all good with Washington. Otherwise, we don't really want to jump headfirst into an initiative and end up on the news with a giant class action lawsuit on our, in our mailbox. Recent high-profile lawsuit like Getty Images case against Stability AI for alleged copyright infringement underscore the growing legal risk associated with development. I wonder if that's the one that there were AI created images and then they had like a little Getty Images watermark. That's ridiculous, bro. The upshot is that organization leveraging Gen AI must prepare for the heightened scrutiny regarding the origin and usage rights of their training data. Over the course of 2025, organizations will really start to bear down to make themselves regulation ready. They have a significant amount of work ahead of them. Consider, right now only about half have Gen AI governance frameworks in place. Less than half conduct formal legislative monitoring. Only 1/3 keep a formal inventory of their Gen AI implementations. Okay, that I think more companies need to do that. Like, be aware of what employees are using Gen AI and how. Like, I really, just as a general, you don't want to keep those secrets with the employees. Anyway, as government and judicial activity around the world quickly transform anything goes AI into a highly regulated industry, that's not going to be enough. And you've got a quote from Joe Biden, which I'm not going to read. Your 25 to-dos. Keep a close eye on the courts and legislators and be ready for the requirements new legislation could impose. Implement robust data governance and security measures, prioritize transparency and explainability in AI algorithms, and establish clear accountability structures for AI-related decisions. And we have the bibliography. Okay, we've got, so these are the sources of, this thing. And my guess is that this was produced using ChatGPT's deep research. And then edited based on the sources that were found and based on... I've been burping a lot, bro. I need to cut those things out. Yeah, I imagine the shell of this was built with, Gen AI, and then they, edited it for hopefully correctness, but definitely for style. And then left a lot of stuff in. Yeah, so I guess in summary, I think this was actually a very good report, a realistic look at where we're going, but it's not 100% realistic. In that, of course, UiPath has a certain incentive. They're on the side of promoting and producing agentic AI for enterprises. So knowing that, we know that they are going to probably sing its praises a hell of a lot more than reality will show. But I think that this document was actually, I think it was relatively free of hype, free of BS, and for a free report that was probably generated with AI, and then maybe edited a little bit. I think it actually does a very good job of showing, at least from my experience. Now, I work with startups and small companies, But when it comes to implementing Gen AI, we have taken a very ad hoc approach, and we definitely have not, and with Agentic AI as well, it's been very ad hoc. I'm using my own little agents for my own little contracting, and I'm using Gen AI for copy and content and all sorts of things, and editing it afterwards, of course, because I know that the AI is not necessarily going to produce the best thing, and I also know that I prefer to use ChatGPT or DeepSeek or Claude or Grok or one of these instead of using the tools that are already in these softwares, particularly Facebook and Google Ads. I don't really like clicking the generate text button. I don't like what it comes up with. Whereas ChatGPT, it just does a better job, and it could be using those same models. I think they're using their own models to generate them, but the fact remains that we're using this technology, and we're using it, it's in production. Like, it's been in production for years, but the next step is definitely having it do stuff for us in an intelligent way. And for us, our job, everybody's job, I don't care if you're a contractor, entrepreneur, you're a regular salaried employee, you're a manager, you're an executive, I don't care what you are, where you are in your organization, I don't care if you're getting fired tomorrow. You need to understand where AI is fitting into these workflows, into your workflows, and kind of get a sense of where, how do I say this? You're going to want to get a sense of where we're going. That's so general. How do I get? I want to give like a specific, like, if we want to get as specific as possible, take a look at your own job, process mine it, task mine it, do this yourself, not with the help of the organization. Do it for your job and for yourself. Like, do that today. I've already done it, and I've already started. At least I've done a lot of it. But like, if you are serious about staying in your career, if you are serious about growing your career, then you don't necessarily have to like it. Like, you don't have to agree with the direction things are going. You don't have to like AI. You can believe it's evil. That's okay. But you got to understand where it fits into your job and what that means for your job and for organizations like yours.